Recording. We can get underway. There is a document associated with this, so if you don't mind signing that. Let's see, I'm gonna pull it up myself. Okay, while I do that, I guess I know that there's a couple very important topics. Do we want to start anywhere? I know we've got Micah here that's looking into an issue and Natalie that's working on releasing the life cycle. I would maybe open up the floor to either of you.
I can give my update. Hello, everybody. Good to see familiar faces. I was looking into the issue number 800, which is appears the Windows apps are not running. I guess this is the short version of it. It does look like it's due to the path environment variable being messed up inside those apps. It does appear, at least at this point, that it's only, well, it's from the changes from Platform API version 4. It's doing different stuff with the environment variables. Yeah, just kind of digging through that right now. I'm trying to suss out what the differences are between Linux and Windows for Platform 4 to see if there's actually just some underlying architectural differences in Windows that makes the way that it treats those environment variables be different. In a way that we might have missed. So it's very surprising that this kind of snuck through the radar in so many different ways. So I'm hoping it's just something real obvious. Yeah, I guess that's about my view. Do you have any questions or thoughts?
Cool. I do. I wonder if we should do status updates first and we could circle back to that. We could dig into it a little bit deeper. Any other status updates?
I can just give a quick update on the Lifecycle patch. We discussed it in working group yesterday, but if anyone missed that, the change right now is to preserve existing functionality or existing workflows for PAC users when they're using Platform API 0.4. Previously, to default to the web process, as a PAC user, I don't have to do anything special. But now that the lifecycle is creating a symlink for every process type, the workflow looks a little bit different. And so what we determined is that PAC should always tell the lifecycle to try, if no default process is specified on the command line, PAC will ask the lifecycle to set web. And if web isn't one of the defined processes, then lifecycle will just ignore it and move on without setting the default process. So we're releasing a patch of the lifecycle that will hopefully enable that.
Cool. All right, any more status updates, release planning? Okay, we can then move on to Micah, if you want to. I guess my question on issue 800 is just to clarify where the root cause is. I think you've identified what's causing it. I just want to make sure, that the statement is true that this would be a lifecycle bug and would require a new patch of the lifecycle. Is that accurate?
As we were speaking, I ran just kind of the final test that I wanted to confirm. What it suggests is that the Linux version 4 environment variables in the config are get the entire path that should be given over to the app. It does the right thing. Linux is obviously fine, but it behaves differently than Windows is right now as far as the lifecycle or what the lifecycle does. Short answer to your question, short answer long, long answer short, is that it does look like it's a lifecycle bug. It appears it's something in exporter where it converts the environment into the image config. It's missing the original path when it writes it into the final image config. So the fix will have to be in lifecycle, it appears, unless I'm really misreading it, but that's my take.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, somewhere in the spec, it does mention that certain things should be removed from the path. But I think on this point, maybe it's a little bit overzealous in just removing too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A common thing that we saw was that the Windows isn't case sensitive about its environment variables. If you ask for all caps path or a lowercase path, you'll get back the same thing. But I suspect that Golang, and we saw a little bit of this before, Golang is case sensitive about the way that it parses the environment variables, or it isn't in, I forget exactly what it was, but I think that's kind of going to be the fix, is that we need to find the case sensitive version of the original path, make sure that it gets carried over into the final image as well too, in addition to the new pieces of the path that we put on there. What it looks like, it's the only components that get set in the image config are the lifecycle path directories and not the system path ones. So in terms of sizing it, I don't feel like it's going to be too hard.
Platform APIs.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just curious if it was only platform API 0.4, or if it is any API version.
It appears that 3 isn't as broken, but I think it's isn't as broken for the wrong reason. Platform v3 doesn't appear to set any environment variable at all on the path. And yeah, I don't think that's, I forget what the v3 spec would say about that, but I don't think that's actually good behavior. I think v3 is working a little bit better, but it's not very, very good.
Yeah, so one of the things that I've contemplated from Pack's perspective is, if this fix doesn't get in time for what we want to do for Pack, then we could set where, if it is a Windows build, right, or a Windows container, we could essentially pass Platform API 03 if the lifecycle supports it, to then just utilize that mechanism, right, or that API version, at least until the next release of Lifecycle and Pack.
That makes sense. So if I'm understanding right, the options we have to sort of avoid, options we have overall is we block release, wait for the fix, whatever fix I come up with before we can release Pack. That feels, like a rough decision. A lot of people are expecting the release to not be blocked. We could do, as you're suggesting, we could have Windows just use v3 and then Linux use v4. And then the final one is just release with Windows broken.
That one seems less favorable.
fix. Well, I mean, there's no one using WCOW right now. It would feel great to release it, but I would also feel like doing a fast follow-up patch wouldn't be the end of the world. Do you get a sense for if we did do a fast follow-up patch to Lifecycle? Good question. WCOW is the Windows containers on Windows, basically meaning like a Pack executable targeting a Windows daemon. So if we were to release without supporting that new scenario with the .0, I think it's the .0, right? Release, and then come up with a .1 to fix it. Maybe I shouldn't speak for everybody, but I think I might be okay with that if it's important enough to get the release out, and if we didn't want to fork the behavior of having WCOW stay on v3 and Linux containers on v4.
Yeah, I think my only reservation is that we're probably going to tout the Windows support very heavily as soon as we make the release. And so I would hate for people to go try it and it immediately not work, right?
That makes sense.
So the fix of supplying Platform API 03 for WCOW seems like a relatively small change that would, satisfy all the checkboxes up until we get the proper fix for supporting Platform API 04.
But isn't O3 still a little bit broken?
Not from
Yeah.
a what is it called, user's perspective, right? It might not follow the spec to the T, but I don't know, Micah, if you want to enlighten us a little bit more on that.
I think I'd have to dig in a little more to see how. I mean, I probably undersold it of how broken it was. I probably maybe exaggerated how broken it was. Yeah, I think you're right, Javier. It does functionally work well. Yeah, and if we did get reported issues, we could just say wait until the patch version that comes out, I suppose, rather than doing any non-useful work on the V3. The next thing we'll release would be the V4, I suppose. I feel like it could make sense. I don't quite know the work involved with forking WCOW to V3, so maybe I'm overly pessimistic.
It's really small. At least the implementation for supporting Platform 04 was just detecting, because we ultimately still support Platform API 03 because you could still be using an old version of the lifecycle, right? And so our support's there. It's just ultimately specifying a variable to our lifecycle execution that tells it, hey, are we using 03 or 04? And so, again, it seems really relatively like well targeted and easy to implement.
Okay. Does it feel like something we'd want to do in parallel? Like I could continue working on this environment variable fix, and someone else would do the switch there?
Yeah, I think that would be very beneficial, actually. At least our CI, like our CI is broken right now because I merged it in with this this issue affecting WCOW builds. But yeah, so like I want to fix it no matter what. So I think that seems reasonable to parallelize.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, then I can stay heads down on this platform 4 fix.
Cool. All right. So now, I guess related to this, do we want to block the lifecycle release that I think we're trying to get out today for this fix to be done? I think Natalie, you might be the one to speak to this, unfortunately, or fortunately. I don't know. However you want to take it.
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
What's the right call? Maybe just right before this meeting, Steven also brought up another, like, surfaced a new bug, which appears to be older than lifecycle version 090. So maybe it's not as urgent, but it has to do with HTTPS proxy, which I believe we currently, like Pack will currently set an environment variable in the container if there's a proxy. And then we're like stripping it out of the environment that we give to the Buildpacks because it's not in the include list. And so, too bad you can't use a proxy. That seems not ideal.
Is this a spec change though?
Interesting question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I added it to the agenda because I have more questions than answers about this right now. Like it was brought up right before this meeting and I didn't know if anybody else had more context on, when this changed, what does that really impact? And, from my perspective, I'm surprised if it is older that nobody's actually brought it up yet, right? So it's just a very small subset of users that are using this feature.
Yeah.
So
I
think
only
maybe,
bring that up. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go. Sorry.
No, I was just like, I have probably even less context and understanding, but I'm just wondering if that's another thing we would want to throw into a patch or if it should just take some more time.
Yeah, I think after this meeting, that would be a good thing to at least investigate and do very similar to what we do for CCB, right? Figure out the impact, the risk, and the complexity associated with it, and see whether or not we want to hold off the release or, something else. Cool. So we'll we'll continue having those conversations in the implementation channel for everybody's sake, if you're interested. And I think right now we have a pretty good idea on what we want to do. We're still unsure about the lifecycle release. That's still up in the air, but we do have a fix for pack going out, essentially. I think pack is still going to be on schedule, whether or not the new lifecycle is released. Actually, I say that, but I guess the other issue that's still open is the default process, which already is fixed. So I think pack can't release without that, to be honest. I think it would be very detrimental.
Right. Well, so my thinking is it'll probably take a little bit of time to get a handle on this HTTPS proxy thing, and then maybe we can check in the afternoon, and Micah, maybe you'll have a sense by then whether this is like, oh, hey, this is a one-line change, let's just merge it and ship it with the patch. Otherwise, we can always cut on 09 too.
Yeah, right. I feel like the mitigation that Javier is going to introduce will make it less important. How far I get, I guess it's just if it makes sense to try and sneak into a life cycle merge or not. And, yeah, I think I'm fine either way. I think that sounds good to me, Natalie.
Cool. And then we also have a working group meeting. I'm not sure that I'll attend, but if this is going to be part of the conversation, I'll try to make an effort to make it. But yeah, I agree. We'll just circle back before end of day today and figure out what we want to do. Cool. All right. Anything else? Awesome. Let's get it out there. All right. See y'all.
See you.